Well, hello everybody. Welcome to my suburban oasis. My name is Soleil and I garden in a zone 6A in mid-Michigan, and today it is a little bit rainy out, just drizzly enough so that I need to have an umbrella so that I can take you through the garden and we can check out and see what's blooming and what's looking amazing today. So let's take a look about. Well, we will start right over here by our deck because it is looking quite lovely. I spent a little bit of time today pruning on the potentillas, and I just wanted to trim them up and make them look real nice. They almost look a little bit like boxwood balls. Now, they're not evergreen or anything like that, but they sure do have a nice texture with that fine foliage, and the beautiful alyssums really help set them off as well. Now, I'm so happy with how this floral hydrangea has turned out. Isn't that amazing? It's just dreamy. We've got all the different colors, the purples and the pinks. And it's got double blooms on it too. It's so gorgeous. And then over here, you can see our Liatris are starting to bloom. And we have amazing big blooms on the Incredibles now. They are just magnificent and in full bloom. We still have more that are coming too. So it looks really, really lovely in the rain, doesn't it? Our planters over here are looking great. They really have filled out so much since we first planted them. I actually thought that the geraniums were going to take over these pots, but in the end it looks like the sweet potato vine is really giving it a go, and the little bells, the super bells, which are the great punch, are really, really going to town also. So we definitely have a lot of interest here. Now our spireas have gone over, so I'm trying to decide if I'm going to just give them a short cut back or if I'm really going to hard prune them. And I'm thinking I'm going to take them back by about 6 inches using my regular pruners or my electric pruners, but we'll see. That's kind of where I'm leaning towards as of today. And just to peek back and show you the incredible blush blooms that are back here. Aren't those lovely? Again, my plan is to dig these daylilies out. They are really beautiful. But move them probably someplace else. These are, I think they're called orange creamsicle. So, very beautiful. And our quickfire hydrangea is finally fired up. Hasn't started changing color yet, but it's really, really beautiful and full. Now we just have one bloom down here on this hydrangea, which is the Let's Dance Rave hydrangea. This one was planted as a very small quart plant last fall, so it will take some time for it to establish. I think you can see just how much change we're having in the garden right now. All of our Millennium alliums have all the little curly-Q blooms or buds that are getting ready to bloom. So those will be coming along very soon. And this Let's Dance is having quite a bit of bloom now, but not as much as I would like. Now look at that, I actually see a snail on my hydrangea there. You see that? So for those of you who think I don't get any slugs or snails, there's my proof. I do, just like you. The Strawberry Sundae hydrangea has really filled out. This one seems to be pretty much the furthest along of all of them besides that quickfire. It really started blooming early this year. And we're starting to get some blooms on this rudbeckia right here. I hope you don't hear me too much blowing, but if I do, it's just because a mosquito's trying to land on my face while I'm trying to film. So everything's looking really lovely around the pool, just very serene and nice to sit around. And our planters at the end here have filled out so nicely. The vinca has really started to bloom this time, which is kind of the redder of the plants that are here on both sides. But it actually goes pretty well with the inner blooms of the geraniums that you see right here. So I'm loving how this has filled out. The daisies are looking great over here. We still don't have any blooms on the buddleia, but again, I'm seeing them down in there. I feel like they're ready to come out any day. Not many blooms on the quickfire over here yet. Lots of color in this area. Now our lilies are just starting to open down here, and because it's raining, of course, they're not open, but probably next week we'll have quite a few of them in bloom for you. We had our first one open, and these are like the perfect storm, I think they're called, something like that, or storm shelter, that's what they're called. And then I also have Rhythm of My Heart, I think they're called, in here. So lots of different daylily blooms will be coming soon. I'm really pleased with how much growth we're still getting on this boxwood here, the variegated boxwood. It used to be that this was just like half a plant, but you can see we've got quite a bit of growth on the back now. So that's fantastic. And there's not much more that I can say than the pictures can show of these hostas, because I really love this hosta walk. I just think it turned out so lovely, and we did a great job picking out, you know, kind of the colors and the combination and the textures, and the way that they just come out over the edge here is so beautiful. We have a firelight hydrangea on this side, thinking about blooming. And we'll just kind of spin around here and look at the hostas from this angle, because I think they're also magnificent from here. And even more so when you take a peek at them from here. I just love that curving pathway. Now our Let's Dance Can Do hydrangea here in the shade has a really big bloom. It's bigger than my hand, and it is gorgeous. And the leaves are quite large as well, but the plant itself is probably only about a foot tall. So I expect that it will probably get bigger over the next couple of years as the roots establish. But this one I bought at the same time as the other one I'll show you out front, and it's doing quite a bit better. Here we have the Queen of Hearts Brunnera, really pushing out those really big, beautiful heart-shaped leaves again. Our Cape Lookout hydrangeas back here are coming along really slowly. So I'm not sure if they're going to bloom or not, or maybe we put them in too much shade. I'm not sure. They're definitely starting to have some blooms on the ones in the front garden, so I'll show you those as well. You can see we have some really nice blooms going on in our potted planters over here. They really have brightened up and filled in. A lot of blooms on the hostas are happening now. Our gold edger hostas are all in bloom. And it looks like we're going to get a bloom possibly on the dark side of the moon, Astilbe here. And we have a few small blooms that for some reason the foliage is really large this year and the blooms are not up above it. So that's interesting. And then our bloom-struck hydrangea is still showing mostly purple at this point. And we have some really nice strong new growth on it as well. I probably am going to move this one this fall to give it a little bit more room, like move it over here to the right a little bit and remove some of those phlox. But this area looks gorgeous also with the big Annabelle hydrangea back there and the Coneflowers grass. These blooms are giant. So pretty. We're getting some nice fresh new growth on the pretty and pink pollinator that was damaged by, what do you call it? Powdery mildew. The oak leaf hydrangea is looking gorgeous though. Still amazing. And you can see just all of these really giant big blooms that we have on the hostas all along here. Isn't that amazing? The pollinators just love them. The bloom stalks on this one, I think this is a Seboldina. They're probably about 4 feet tall. Amazing. Just amazing. We've got something that's eating on my hopscotch heucherellas here. I don't know what. It's either bunnies or groundhog. But everything's still looking pretty good here. And I do have plans to come through still and dig out some of these hostas here. That's going to happen soon. And I do want to show you also these planters that we did with the Ice Bog rosemary and the magenta petunias. They're filling out really nicely. Hopefully you can see them all right. But we're getting a nice contrast and some really nice blooms on that. And of course over here are giant hibiscus. These are the evening rose hibiscus. And the pelargoniums are doing really well in between these chaise lounges. We're starting to get lots of buds on the Tian Shen 7 sunflower tree. Isn't that fun? And these incredibles are doing great over here. Well, let's take a look at the pink diamond hydrangea because it is a stunner as a tree form. Isn't that beautiful? There's so much glorious white. It just looks so clean. Wow, the mosquitoes are like vampires today. They're just everywhere. Does anybody else call them your state bird? Oftentimes we call them the state bird of Michigan. Here's our Bar Harbor hydrangea. Gorgeous. Love it. This one is the same variety, just not as big. Just not quite as happy in its spot. But I think they all look beautiful with that purple plum tree. We've got some nice new growth on the Amber Jubilee 9 bark. That's just glowing. Very bright and orange. This is a pretty view too, looking out over the hedge. I've taken the covers off of the lavender that we planted just a couple weeks ago in these 2 urns on the deck, and I threw some rocks in them just to keep the rabbits and the squirrels and the chipmunks from hopping up in there and digging, but they shouldn't eat them at all. We're starting to get some bloom stalks on them. So that's really pretty. I've had some raspberries on my raspberry plant up here, and so have the chipmunks, of course. And you can see we have some nice new bright growth on this Amber Jubilee 9 bark as well. I've done a little bit of trimming on this just to keep it limbed up like a tree form here. And we have our daisies over here, and I moved our lady. So I put her into the Pinky Winky. I think she looks very fun there. And we're going to be getting some blooms on the oregano that is planted in her. And I think when the blooms come out on that Pinky Winky, that's just going to be gorgeous. Yeah, so I thought it would be fun just to move her over a little bit. We're starting to see some buds on the little lime hydrangeas that are in the back here. And the pink mink clematis is still just going strong. Really gorgeous. All right, let's take a look in the front garden. Well, out here in the front garden, for the first time, I'm actually seeing a red hot poker come up on my red hot poker plant. So I'm excited about that. Never had a bloom on one. We've had some nice new growth on this spirea, adding on probably about 6 inches of height here. So that will be lovely. And hopefully next year we won't have that late freeze that ruins all of the blooms, but it sure is a lovely plant to have here anyways. You can see we've also got some amazing height on this elderberry over here. This is the black lace elderberry, and it's actually grown taller than the one that's in full sun. I think it might be stretching a little bit because of that, but I'm happy about it because maybe next year we'll get some blooms on it. So we do have a quick fire hydrangea over here, which you would think would be blooming by now, but it's not. This is our west side, and we're finally getting some blooms on the hypericum. These are the Sunny Boulevard variety, and it's very, very sunny, I have to say. The blooms are amazing. They have some really little stamens in each and every one of them that just, I don't know if I can get close up enough if this camera will focus, but they're so pretty. Very unique. And our bobbleheads are now in bloom. Our little alliums and the verbena. And I'm waiting on this flax to bloom. But things are very, very lush because of all of the rain that we've had, and we've had some really hot weather along with the rain. Here you can see our bear's breeches back here is actually in bloom now. A very unique plant. That one takes a while to establish, but once it's established, it's good to go and very drought resistant. Here we have our new plantings that we did on this corner in the tonal blue, the tone on tone. I'm looking forward to seeing those fill in a little bit as the grasses will grow. Hopefully they put on some good growth fairly quickly this year, now that they're in the ground. I do need to come through with some deer spray because you can see I've got some damage on this hosta that something's been eating it. Whether it's the groundhog or it's deer, I don't know, but they did also come through and eat a bunch of my begonias over here. So I have learned that my wildlife like the begonias, especially the dark leaf begonias. So they really went to town on those in the center of this garden bed. But otherwise, I did get them replanted. They're just eaten down to the nubs, so we'll see if they grow back. I did scatter some repels all in there, and hopefully that will help. Because otherwise this garden bed is really looking nice, and we're starting to get another set of blooms coming out on the Sonic Bloom Weigela back here. It won't be as intense as it was earlier this year, but definitely beautiful to see it coming out again. And you guys, the front garden bed right now is really shining for me. I have these gorgeous goldfinch daisies that have finally come into bloom. Let's just take a peek at these, shall we? Again, they're just so frilly, and the gorgeous color that they are, I can't explain it. I'm not even the biggest daisy fan, but these just do something for me. And they get a little bit lighter as they open up. And then back behind them, we have the frilly blooms starting on the bobo hydrangeas. And then if we sneak on up over here, we can see this beautiful yellow color along with that electric purple that I showed you last week on this Veronica. Isn't that beautiful? I find it to be a really stunning combination. And the barberry have put on some nice new growth, so they're really glowing right now as well. And this Jack Street Stream Oakleaf Hydrangea has put on all of its blooms, so I think it's at full bloom right now. We have some coneflowers that are going to come into bloom as well in this garden bed, and some more Millennium Allium. But it's just so stunning all together. Just trying to back up to get it all in for you. The garden really does go through a lot of changes during the year. And it looks completely different sometimes from just a month before. As you'll see from the front here, it looks completely different to me from the front as well, because we now have some of those powwow pink coneflowers in bloom right in front of those Allium Schubertii seed heads, which is just really accenting the pink color on those Allium Schubertii. And then we have the Liatris that's starting to bloom, that's kind of glowing between those orange rocket barberries, with the bobo hydrangeas in front of them as well. And then you can still even see on the side that Veronica, that beautiful blue Veronica. Periwinkle? Violet? I don't even know what color to call it, honestly. Well, our mailbox garden is completely awash in blooms with the coneflowers now. There's more coming, but it's definitely alive and bright and cheery. Now look at this funny one right here. This one's shaped so funny. And this one over here looks like Seymour. Feed me, Seymour. Isn't that strange shape? Sometimes they come out a little bit funky, don't they? We have some coneflowers happening in this garden bed as well. And we're getting close to me being able to show you the Liatris hedge. We're almost there. Our penstemon are going over in this garden bed now, so I'm definitely going to want to cut those back. You can see even more of that new growth starting on this spirea with the little red tips that it has. Starting to look healthier and healthier every week after we transplanted it. And this garden bed with its sunny little annual pot of yellow, with some pops of color in the back now with the echinaceas. And that grass is really starting to fill in. That's the Prairie Winds Apache Rose grass back there. And then as we turn to the side garden over here, we have the most beautiful scene of the Liatris and the Little Henry Sweet Spire and the PG Hydrangea Standard And all of the ferns. And the strawberry Sunday hydrangea at the back. Oops, there went a rabbit down underneath the fence. Now he's in the back garden. So there you have it. It's about a third in bloom right now, and they bloom from the top down. So we'll still have some blooms probably next week as long as it doesn't get too hot. The forecast right now seems like it's going to be pretty good. So yeah, so many beautiful coneflowers all along the back of this garden bed, just getting ready to pop out. And I am liking that tall structure of the grass on either side there. Looking forward to seeing that bloom this fall. Well, I hope you guys have enjoyed this garden tour. I do want to show you how our plantings have been doing over by the front. So they're looking pretty good, and I think that they're really nice and light, so they help lighten up that entryway. And yeah, so they turned out good. Our impatiens are growing very well in the window boxes, as well as up on the porch. So just like some really nice pops of color, along with our amaryllis green foliage, which just looks so nice and shiny and healthy. So here are those Cape Lookout hydrangeas. I was telling you about how these are actually putting on blooms already, but we are not getting any in the back because they're in more shade. So that's just the way it is, I guess. But those should be putting out some blooms soon for us. I'm excited for that. I think we had some right around the 4th of July, so that's coming up. And here's our pretty moss garden back here. And lastly, I will just show you the can-do hydrangea that is here in the front garden. That is the same size as the one I planted in the back garden, but you can tell the blooms are much smaller here. And I'm not sure why. Always something to do with the soil and the light and all of that. Well, I hope you all enjoyed this garden tour and walkabout. It was great to walk through it. As always, stay tuned for some wonderful drone footage courtesy of Mr. Oasis coming up next. Here you go. Enjoy.